So welcome to Get YouTube Done Now Workspace. I am Majesty AliNICOLE Wow, and I am the founder and creator of the WowTube Preneur Factor Evolution. And I am joined once again by my star queen celebrity-preneur protege, Gina Gardiner, and excited that she is back. This is actually the third workspace session. And there's been so much quick progression in terms of what she's been doing since the first workspace session. And there will be links in the description below where you can listen to the previous segments. But today we're going to be shifting gears a little bit, kind of playing from both sides of the track. But before we get into that, I just want to welcome Gina back to the workspace and let her also provide us with kind of an update of what's been going on, with her and her YouTube initiative.
Hello there, and thank you very much for having me as part of this workspace initiative. So it's been a busy week. When we first started this, I said that I would do 3 30-day programs of YouTube. And the first one, the one I've been working on, initially started off as going to be a series of YouTube videos for people who have long-term illness, including long COVID, and disability, and drawing on my personal experience because I've had a number of health issues following a ski accident in 1983. So I'm well placed to share not the medical side of things, but how to really live a very happy, successful and fulfilling life, despite the fact, for example, that I have been wheelchair bound and I still use a wheelchair when I'm outside. And so when I started that, the idea of that, it was just going to be a series of YouTube videos. But then through our discussion, I made the decision, in fact, after I think it was the first session.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do a companion book to it.
Right.
For a number of reasons. One, that different people learn in different ways. Having something to refer to, I think, can be useful. And I also wanted to give people a safe space for them to gather their thoughts and notice their patterns. And so I've now finished the first draft of the book. And it's about the actual, my writing is about 15,000, just over 15,000 words. And I have videoed 22 videos.
Wow.
They vary in length from 3 or 4 minutes. I think the longest one is 12 minutes. They've been edited. They have a thumbnail at the front introducing them. They're loaded onto YouTube. There's a description of the playlist. What's still left to be done is a description, short description of each video. And I've approached the gentleman who was my neurologist since 1984 until a couple of years ago when he retired, and he's agreed to write the foreword. So he's currently looking at the videos and he's read the book. So as soon as I get that forward, tomorrow one of the jobs I will do is sort out the design of the front cover and get the blurb done, which is still to be done. And within a few days of receiving the foreword from Professor Findlay, then the book will be published on KDP.
Awesome. And it is a wonderful, wonderful book. I have had the opportunity to read it, and it definitely is one of those much needed publications. And I'm excited that this is going to hit the market, and also how YouTube is being leveraged in terms of this initiative. So something I want to bring up also is that when you mentioned about the different learning styles or receptivity styles of how people connect to various levels of content. So there's also the opportunity, if you don't already have this part in the works too, is you have the publication and you have the playlist, the opportunity to even have an audio type of product, even if it's something that's not very long and extensive, so to speak, but kind of an in the box, or a little short series that maybe expounds a little bit more than what you did in some of the videos. And so that's another opportunity to be able to leverage that, or something like even putting it on Gumroad, creating some videos and putting it as a course on there that gives people another option in terms of connecting to content and, and learning, and bettering themselves that way. So so
Yeah,
that's
one thing that I thought I might do
Mhm.
is to do some interviews with people, either people I've worked with or
Yes,
people who have been through one, an experience with illness, long
yes,
COVID
right.
disability, who can offer their perspective.
Yes.
Do that as a podcast type audio.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, create a podcast product. I'm really big about creating those, where you can have the conversational training type of podcast flow in a product format. And even if you were going to have some on YouTube, or ones that you would post for free, or segments of it or so, but definitely a product version. Of that. It doesn't actually hurt to have a product tier, um, with those different varieties. And again, not creating things that are too extensive, so to speak. But if you want to do something where it was just you,
Yeah.
and provided, like I said, extensions of the trainings based on what you were sharing in the YouTube videos, so to speak, and then have a separate product too that has maybe the podcast features. And then there's also the possibility to combine it all into one. But you can just have those different levels. And of course, then use YouTube to be able to highlight those. So there's opportunity to do more, to showcase on YouTube for sure.
And there are certainly other books. The book that I wrote with Vicky around taking
Yes,
responsibility for your
yes. Companion types of products and companion
life.
types of offerings. So it's not just necessarily, yes, just tailored to that one, specific. It's anything that is related that you can tie in to create this cohesive well-being experience.
There are a number of articles, not
Mhm.
specifically written for this group, but actually are really relevant to this group.
Right. Mhm.
And so including those. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think that there are all sorts of ways of expanding that.
Hmm.
My intention is to continue to add to the playlist
Great,
as
great,
things
great.
crop up, or as people watch and ask questions and have particular issues that they want some help with. So
Right.
it's I think I see it as a dynamic melting pot, really.
Absolutely.
It's going to
It can
respond.
lead to other things, in a very non-linear way.
Yeah,
And so leveraging YouTube, and I'm just going to bring up YouTube Shorts here. That's a perfect way to actually always have something to actually talk about as it relates to that specific thing. And since this is going to be more of that 30-day, well, we're winding down on that now, the 30-day initiative for that bracket, because you have that set up, and you have the content that's already ready for that, then
yeah.
it can be referenced whenever, but you can position it at different times, for the higher advantage, where you're not constantly having to actually do something around that, so to speak. And then if you do, you're kind of updating it every now and again, because that's not what your channel is primarily about. But
No.
that is what makes, how you're showcasing what you do unique, is because you have that available for others
Yeah.
that they can sync up with, for sure.
Um, and
Mhm.
so that's been where the major focus has been.
Yeah.
As I'm sort of getting to, I've got to grips with that. The next well, leveraging that and getting that all in place is one strand of things still to do. But then the next thing is to plan a 30-day program with shorts, and to have the discipline of sitting down and actually doing those 1 minute or less than 1 minute
Yeah.
video is something quite new for me, because generally
Right.
my videos are a bit longer.
Yes. And as we have talked in other segments and off-air sessions too, is that you can use shorts to also segue people into what you've already done. And so
Yes.
that's the benefit of leveraging YouTube Shorts for your higher marketing, advantage for sure, is that you can talk about one aspect or element of a particular video or offering that you have, and then invite people to look in the comment section, where
Yeah.
there'll be a link to that, because when doing shorts, you primarily want to put what the opportunity is in the comments, because the way that it's set up, when you view them, you don't get to see a description box, even though you still need to have it in the description box, because if someone visits your channel and clicks on it a certain way, it may still come up for them and in the traditional video format way, but in the short shelf, so to speak, you will see it kind of in a certain view, and there's not the opportunity there to click in the description. So that's why you just want to put it in the whatever it is in the comments, and you can pin the post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, so great. So what I felt, in a sense, would be best for today's session is to start leveraging both sides of the track, so we can build some new momentum around what you already have as you're working on these newer developments. And so that means that though you're working on those, we don't have to be on kind of a pause in terms of now showcasing or bringing some attention to what already exists that definitely is ripe and ready to come into a new strand of fruition, so to speak. Um,
Yeah.
so what came up for me in terms of w- areas that you could start leveraging are the training hubs,
Yes.
and being able to now bring some attention to the training hubs. So let's talk a little bit about the training hubs, because they both are leadership focused training hubs for different variations of leadership. There's the one that is around the profitable leadership in the enlightened format, and then we have a new definition leadership that is just really enhancing the overall leadership agenda in new ways. So let's talk a little bit. You can let the audience know about the two different training hubs, and give a little bit about that, and then we can get into maybe how we start positioning those using YouTube.
Okay, so two of my training hubs. One is Gina Gardiner Associates.co.uk, and that is about a whole range of aspects of leadership, leading yourself first, because it's my view that in order to be an effective and an enlightened leader, you've got to do the deep dive work on yourself. That self-awareness and your capacity to take radical responsibility for you is really, really important. So there are workshops around giving yourself the opportunity to develop into your best self. And then there are aspects of business leadership, such as communication and making the most of your team. There's leadership there for empaths, and I think many people who are aware of the fact that they are empaths don't see themselves as leaders, and we certainly need them to be leaders. But there are people who don't know that they're empaths, and so there's training on there for you to discover, are you an empath, and what does that really mean? And there's a mixture of training there that is either online. It's in the box. You purchase it, and then you cover it at your own level, at your own speed. But there's also virtual workshops where you work with me either individually or in a small group, and that's for those who really want to accelerate their progress, and where everything is using the principles but focusing it specifically on their situation and helping them move forward. And I would say there's also the opportunity for those who want to be the leader of leaders. So it's at every level, from emerging to those who really want to become limitless leaders.
Yes.
And want to engage and make a really positive difference, not only to themselves, their companies, their business, but also in the broader society and the world too.
Right, yes.
And there are publications. There's some free training on there as well. It's really encompasses leadership from start to finish in terms of your capacity to grow as a leader.
Right. Yes.
The other training site, which is Profitable Enlightened Leaders, that's looking at leadership, but there is quite a significant focus on how to be holistically profitable.
Right.
And many leaders think that in order to be profitable, you focus almost exclusively on the figures, the profits. And they completely lose sight that the profits are actually the outcome of leading in an enlightened way.
Right.
And there's my trainings on there, but there's also some of your trainings on there. And again, they're different styles. Some of them are off the shelf. You just take them and work yourself. Again, workshops that are virtual. There will be more in-person conferences and workshops as things go on. Some of them for the individuals, some of them for groups. Some of them are designed that you could actually take your whole leadership team and do it as a complete business. And if you will really want to accelerate your business and get the culture right and get things moving, that's a brilliant way to go, because everybody is then aware and singing from the same hymn sheet.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll have links to both of those training hubs. The profitable one is enlightenedprofitableLeaders.com. Is that
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yes, okay. So we'll make sure that we have the Gina Gardiner Associates .co.uk, and then that one will have those training hubs available, and also your link tree where they can learn more about other sites, and also your YouTube channel too, because we definitely want to talk about that and give a plug for that before we conclude the workspace. So with these training hubs, and thank you so much for setting that up and giving the general core objectives for the initiatives around those two training hubs. And I feel very strongly that those are ready to be, positioned in the marketplace and leveraging YouTube by being able to bring some attention to those. And it's interesting because just how you just shared about both of them, my mind's going in so many different directions. This thing like that right there that's a YouTube video right there, in terms of, kind of breaking that down. And anytime, of course, I'm always the fan, of course, for building in terms of one-stop shop initiatives and having those safe spaces where people feel like, oh, once I come here, this is where I want to be. And if I can learn about leadership on all these different levels and then segue to one that's a little bit more concentrated in a focus, then again, that's giving people options to stay with you. And then, of course, we know that you have sub-training hubs also on other different platforms. So at this point, in terms of leveraging YouTube to bring some attention to those, what are you feeling at this moment? Or we can play around with this, and in terms of maybe some of the best ways to start introducing that through YouTube, whether it's a playlist, shorts, of course, are going to be great, but whether do you create a playlist around the different levels of the leadership and have a logo that says, visit in slider, so this is visit GGA and enlighten profitable leaders. What are some things that you're thinking in terms of how we can leverage YouTube
Well,
to
there are already some playlists that would, if then they could be used as standalones, but also part of something much bigger.
Mhm.
Particularly around the enlightened, profitable leadership, and
Yeah.
certainly growing awareness of that.
Mhm.
There are also planned the playlists around my TV and radio shows where I've had interviews with other people, but also I'm in the process of creating training sessions that are from me as well as other people.
Right.
So those could be used.
Yes.
There are a whole of both sites are full of lumens.
Right, of
So
course.
those lumens could actually be put into a playlist, because they, within a couple of minutes,
Mhm.
describe the essence of the different
The different ones. Yeah, so that's perfect. I would move in on that. What we want to focus on during this time is moving with what already, of course, exists, but how do you leverage it in terms of something like I'll use this as an example. Like you have what you're planning to do, of course, with around that particular
yes,
agenda. But like how you just moved right in and said, I already have lumens that exist, and I could put those up on YouTube, right?
yes,
So to start moving the energy more and leveraging YouTube shorts, that will help to bring more visibility to your platform, to your channel, right?
yeah,
Um, Consider doing some YouTube shorts, just talking about um, the importance of leadership on a certain level. Um, of course, it can be profitability. It's a variety of things, but I would start leveraging YouTube shorts. And then if there are the playlists that exist, then you can lead them into the playlist. Because
yeah,
one thing I will say is that YouTube shorts are going to get seen before lumens will.
yes. No, that makes sense. But if I actually took each lumen
Mhm.
um, and then use that to translate that into a YouTube short, often I don't know about the listeners, but often I find that once I know what I want to talk about, it's plain sailing.
Yes. Right.
It's the planning. I've always got a good idea of what I want to do, but the
Mhm.
planning. Okay, what is it I want the viewer or the listener to get out of the words that I speak?
Yes.
That's the bit that I think sometimes takes the time, because I want it to add a value in the shortest possible way, rather than going round and round in the houses. So having the lumen where I've already done the thinking
Yes.
and done the work, watching the lumen 2 or 3 minutes, and then immediately going into doing a short of that,
Absolutely. Right. And you could
that
definitely
will
lead
short
them into,
circuit the process.
oh, absolutely. Because you want to, as I mentioned, use what already exists,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah,
what will get eyes on what already exists, and then more eyes on what it's actually leading to. So that's perfect in terms of, yes, watch the video again and then come right out and make that short that can lead into the comments for them to learn more, or watch that, or however. And of course, because then the lumen leads to something else. And
yeah,
so that's being able to start to get into action in terms of moving and creating more momentum in what you already have as you're working on what is developing more out of the intensives that you are creating for yourself to get YouTube done now. um, and because that's what it's about, is getting YouTube done now. And there's always an element in the aspect of now, which I've heard say before, and I've used this throughout the years, no other way. What is something is we're doing one thing, what is already in existence that we can be actually moving the momentum on now. I have to do that constantly, even for myself, uh,
Yeah.
saying that there's actually something else as I'm waiting to release this particular course or waiting to release that particular thing. I can offer a mini training version of a bigger expanded course, or I have some other elements, even in nonlinear ways, that can contribute to being prerequisites for what's emerging, or just doing more experimenting with the shorts, which I do tons of shorts, and but always, yeah, looking for different ways. So that's a way for you, and God bless you, to be able to play from both sides of the track, so that again, as you're working on the book coming out and you've already started producing videos, for that. Um, Now, actually, let me come back to this. Um, what you have been currently working on. Do you have a video at this point that can also initiate people actually working with you around that area?
Not yet.
Okay, I figured that. So that is good, because I would definitely encourage you to maybe do another version that is really specifically about that. Just how you said in terms of what your relevance is in terms of the well-beingness and the part that you don't play and the parts that you do play, and being able to clarify that, and of course still talk about publications that that you have and different things. But for people who actually maybe want to be a part of a workshop or so, then that can be evergreen marketing too, because it can be a workshop that you set up that you offer so often. And if you only allow so many people in that particular workshop, but then there can be the link for when the next one is coming up for people to continuously sign, there they can
Yeah.
sign up for it. So that's a way of being able to do a YouTube video around that particular initiative, and then leverage a short or a couple of shorts to be able to segue to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's, add that to the list, of course. But now coming back to working with what you already have. So we know
Yeah.
that you have tons of publications. And
I do indeed.
yes, right. And so if you did want to focus even on the leadership aspect, because that's where you have the most robustness in
Yeah.
terms of, of those different variations. And because you have those publications, several samples or so with you, then there's the opportunity, of course, to do some shorts featuring one or two or a few, but also having a longer video that it doesn't have to be long, because I'm really about the short form video at this point, but you go with the guidance of what you feel is best, because you can have a variety. But being able to do something that is showcasing a series so in different ways, because I know that you already have these things that are available and we can use that, but
Yeah.
sometimes bringing kind of a new focus and a new some new awareness to those things that already exist, and yeah, just starting to look at what you already have. How can you use that differently? How can you do some combination types of offerings where you have the publications, some of the courses on Gumroad, some of your in the boxes? How can you create, even within a video description, as I talk about sometimes creating one video as if it is a platform, and making that description box be almost like a website in the sense that invites people and gives some thought-provoking awareness, and then have the different offerings, and you can categorize them, within the description. But since you get up to, I think, what, 5,000 characters, I think, or so in the
Yeah.
description, yeah, you might as well, robust it out, and demonstrating the different levels and realms of value. Um, so something that's coming to mind is because you have the different categories of leadership.
Yes.
And so there's the opportunity, even within the description. I'm reverse engineering this here. Within the description, to have where there's about the enlightened leadership, of course,
Yeah.
and the publications, and then the opportunities with GGA, and then you can do some type of little separating for the next category, and then focus on the profitable leadership aspect and list those publications, and then the website to that. And then if you talk about something else that is signature to another platform, one of your sub platforms, so to speak, you can add that. But if not, even if you just kept it where you're just talking about, oh no, we have the BS series too. so, so yeah, so that's the thing, is that you can have where you're talking about these three different categories on a video, and leadership in all types of ranges, and we all fall into these different categories of leadership every now and again, but cohesively it's who we are, but more elements or aspects show up at different times, and we need to be really aware of where we are in our leadership in being real. And so the three areas I want to talk about today are the enlightened leadership advantage, also the profitable leadership advantage, and also the advantages of not BSing yourself while you're in leadership, as you're being a leader. And so then hitting some thought-provoking awarenesses, bringing some awareness to all of those different areas. First, why they are important, and then talking a little bit about each area, even if it's 2 to 3 minutes per area. And then if you can bring it to a conclusion or a close, and then direct them to the description, where there's a robust, there's a plethora of offerings in terms of options, for people to be able to avail themselves to. But again, because you have publications, you can very much present or show just a series at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can I just ask you, in terms of the video that we've just been talking about, where I highlight the enlightened leader, the profitable leader, and the advantages of not BSing yourself as a leader.
yes.
And you talked about a video short. What do you think is the optimum length of time for that sort of video to be?
Oh, you mean doing a short form?
Well, that's what you had mentioned, is doing a short
Short
form.
form. Yeah, a short form for that. I would say if I said that if you talk 2 to 3 minutes about each one or so, let that one be under 7 minutes or 10 minutes. I still would consider, because of the nature of what that is, I would still consider a 10-minute to kind of be a short form, because you would be doing some features. But we can actually trim it down, because you can actually do a 5-minute video around that. You could actually do a 5-minute video, because you can bring up a level of importance for each, and then talk a minute or so about that, or just things that you want them to think about. And that can be in simple statements. And the reason why it's important to be an enlightened leader is because if you are unaware of X, Y, and Z, you're going to shortchange not only yourself, but also the other people whom you are here to serve and lead and guide. So it's important as an influencer that you become more enlightened and keep leveling yourself up, And then, of course, because you have the publication, all the publications that go through the authenticity, the emerging, the limitless. And so, you could definitely, in the longer video, maybe hit on all those different aspects where you could talk 2 to 3 minutes about that specific section.
Because I haven't done any of the videos that are less than a minute, I think they're the ones that actually, because they're unfamiliar, they seem more of a challenge to get something that's useful out in less than a minute.
Well, let me pause you, and I understand where you're going, and
I think it is unfamiliar, but yes,
and you're not, arguing for your limitations around that or anything like that. The reason why at this point, even though let's just focus on the short form, and then we can come back and leverage shorts. So let me bring some more clarification and distinctions. As you know, of course, you've read the different articles and we've gone over things, but I just, even for the listening audience. So in terms of YouTube and short form videos, there's a difference between YouTube shorts and short form videos. So YouTube shorts are just the short vertical style videos that you primarily use your phone for. There are softwares where you can actually create vertical videos also in that software, to use, but using your phone for YouTube shorts. And it's under 60 seconds that you get to do a video, and it goes on the YouTube short shelf. So short form videos are going to be pretty much videos that are less than about 5 minutes or less, more the 2 to 3 minute type of videos, where you are hitting certain points and maybe those lead to something bigger. So that's where I'm actually going with you, Gina, is that it's kind of building the different dimensions, and in reverse engineer way is where you can have one, let's say, that is 10 minutes, or maybe it's 10 to 15 minutes, right? But then you can have a version
that's a lot shorter.
Yeah, exactly. That's shorter. And then we work our way from a 10-minute to a 5-minute. And then we can look at, or even maybe a 2 to 3 minute. And then we can look at how do you then use the YouTube shorts? Because what can happen is you can't, in 60 seconds, try to get in what you would in the longer videos. That's what the purpose of those are. But what you could do is focus on one aspect and one element. So if you were to, let's just say that you did a YouTube short and it's about being a limitless leader. And, don't you get tired of, or maybe not tired, but most people do operate like that, where they are tired of operating in the same capacity of leadership, right? And so then you can start talking about what it really means to be limitless, even though that is something that people can really define for themselves. But even within that, they still, it has to have some general premise around it. So you can hit on something simple like that as becoming limitless, or something more common, authentic, being, authenticity. So if you did something around that, then you could feature your authentic leadership publication. And then you also could then invite them to, if there's a playlist or there's a video or so that accompanies that with more, then that's the opportunity. But you can have a singular focus for just the short, and then segue them to something else, or just make it about that particular book, that particular concept.
Can I just check with the shorts? Are those also done just on the phone, or can you do those on the computer?
Well, that's what I was mentioning before. I
The
just,
short form, I mean, the
yeah.
shorts on I know are on the phone, but the short form, these shorter videos, what would your recommendation be?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So with the short form, you can just, yeah, do those just normal.
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
for
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah, unless you want to do some shorts off of what you off of those short form videos, then you can do that, meaning you can record it with your phone and then take clips from that, because your phone will give you the opportunity to do the edit, at least for the YouTube aspect. It will give you the option to make a short out of it or so, or you could do some editing in your phone. um, and so those are just options. And for those who are listening, yeah, definitely get creative. So if you do decide to use your phone to do a walk, or just to sit down and film, like several people do, then you can make shorts off of that particular one, and maximize your marketing or your visibility in that way by having different options. Something I do with shorts, just even ones that I'm doing that's not from something longer, but just ones that I'm just regularly filming, I create different versions of that because they give you different um, filters. So you can
Okay,
have two or three of the same videos where in one the filter's a little bit darker, or you can shorten it by a few seconds or so, and that creates a different video. So also something I want to bring up too, Gina, just in reference to if you do some shorts around your books. Um, I don't always do face shorts. I will have the book where I just have the phone over the book and I'm talking about the book, or I may flip the book open. Or when I'm doing my DIY reflexology video, some of those, and I know you've seen a few of those, where it's just me working on on my foot, and the phone is filming me working on my foot, but also me featuring my publication
yeah,
for reflexology. So in that particular video, you're not seeing me per se. So you can actually do videos where it is just you have the phone over the book and you're
yeah,
talking about the book, because it's a very short a
yeah.
short video, or you can put it right on a page of a particular paragraph that was you feel is valuable, and share that really quickly. So those are just ways to kind of expand and be limitless. um,
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I will play with. It's something I haven't done before.
And I
Uh,
would move right into that, and that's why I'm kind of drilling in on this part, is because um you'll see, I mean, doing a YouTube short is much easier in a sense, I would say, than even doing some type of long form or even short form video. And I know that can sound like, well, no, because in 1 minute, what can I say in 1 minute or so?
and I
But
think it's also I'm very comfortable with starting the video and on the computer and knowing exactly, the angle, to put books and things like that. It's very different on the phone when you've got so I've got to play with how I'm going to do it. So I feel comfortable, and it's no different to how it was when I first started videoing on the computer. I was very,
right. You
and
just
now it's
learn it's
second.
unfamiliar, right? Yeah. But that's why I was giving the option in terms of you don't even have to do a video per se where it is you holding the book talking about that. You can just have the book face down on the coffee
Yeah,
table and
yeah,
put the phone over the book and just share. I wanted to share with you all my publication on this, that, and that. I was inspired to talk about authenticity as it relates to leaders, and this goes far beyond just a leader in a certain position. If you're a mother, you're a parent, you're a teacher, and don't even have kids or whatever, you're a leader. You're somebody's,
Yeah.
anyway, you get it.
I do.
So
And
yeah,
I
so
think
that's the
like
thing.
with all of these things, it's just a question of getting started,
I
isn't it?
would
As you
just
say,
do
get
it.
it done now.
That
And
is, that's the point. Exactly. Get YouTube done now, meaning forget that, no
yeah,
one has to dress up for a video at this point. You don't have to get a speech together for X, Y, and Z. Here
no,
it is that you're filming. You just put it over your book and and just say something about that, just to break the ice.
yes.
Um, and
And when I look back to my early videos, I think, oh, goodness me. Whereas now I feel very, very confident doing it. And to people who
right,
are out there who are listening to this, I think, recognize that we talk about our comfort zone, but what we're talking about is our familiar zone.
right.
And as soon
That's
as
not
we
even comfortable.
no, often it's very uncomfortable. That's the
Right.
paradox, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
right.
it's familiar, and so we like to stay where it's familiar. So yeah, I will get going with those. I shall start tomorrow.
Yes, right. That's right. And only because you're on a time zone where it's getting late. That's right. Use tomorrow. Exactly. Get YouTube done
Yeah,
now, right?
definitely.
Yeah, so that's the thing is going back to what I was saying before, is being able to play from both sides of the track. And so moving the energy and the momentum and the attention towards existing products and programs that are ripe and ready to come out now, but also there, as you are doing this, it could be a different way to introduce it
Yeah,
and to see if it's more metamorphosized at this point, so that we know in terms of the lead in to you. So give me just a moment here. I'm being present. See what's jumping out here at me. um so a segue is coming up. So you have a Tumblr platform or so that is around the profitable leaders, or different strands in terms of the different aspects that are featured on your main platforms.
yes,
You can use those to actually start the segue, but we do want to actually make the bigger platforms the main stars, but there are opportunities to do segues, to that. So something that's coming up right now, and this is something I actually do with even Lumen 5, where I will introduce an article series or a platform and tell a little bit, it just has a little concept or so around it, and then tell them that the article or so is in the description below. I typically do it with ones that I have an article bundle where there's 5 articles about X, Y, and Z. In this case, you could, if you have a blog, and even if it's just a landing page one, where, but you have some of the text that, well, of course, on those pages, you're going to have something that you're leading them into. So it could be whatever it was that was the thought provoking or the statement that is leading them into the other offerings. You could put that in a Lumen,
yeah,
and then just say, see with, see link below in the comments. And the reason why I'm going to recommend, in a sense, to just put the say see link below in the comments or more information, or in the description in this case, is because platforms change, and different things happen. And when you have just not having the direct platform on there, that's not a website that you really have control over.
no,
If something happens with that, you can always just put in another platform, and didn't have to have that within the video, so to speak. But of course, your .coms and your .co.uk definitely, can include
yeah,
those. So it's just being able to use things that already exist as, as segues, um, new ways to introduce
Yeah.
New ways to introduce what you already have.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, being able to leverage this for YouTube. And the great thing about this is that you really will rarely ever run out of things to post when you can diversify the different offerings. And when I say offerings, I'm not always just talking about something for people to buy, so to speak. To me, anytime you are adding value, that's an offering,
Yes.
you know, and providing empowerment. And something else, if you want to lean into shorts, going back to that real quick, and this is for others too, is share a quote, a quote that is inspiring to you. It doesn't have to be your quote. Just, I'm inspired by this particular quote by Einstein or Emerson or so, and then share the quote and a thought around that. And so that's a way to empower and inspire people, because every short that you do or video that you do does not have to be something that is pertaining to something that you want to lead people into.
No.
It's part of building up, the personal branding aspect for the know, love, and trust, not just the know, like, and trustability. But when people can relate to you on various levels. And so even walking in your garden, Gina, and
Yeah.
showing off a flower in the garden, or just, I'm out here today, it's windy, or however, or, just different things. So it takes the intimidation out
Yeah.
of having to think that the videos have to be this way.
Yes. Yeah.
And
No, I had thought that the I mean, there's a couple of trees at the back
Mhm.
that are just amazing. And the number of acorns, I've never seen, the ground is just completely and utterly covered by acorns. And you
Oh,
think,
wow. That I
so
would
they're,
have a field day with that. I would look at all the potential here.
yeah,
Do you know every acorn has the encoding to become an oak tree?
yeah. That's what made me think of it, actually.
Yes.
And yeah, so that, and also that there are a couple of my books, aren't there, that would then lend itself.
Absolutely.
The Spirit is the window to my soul. There are just so many
Right.
different things that can do. And I think, like anything, once you get over yourself and you start
Mhm.
to think about the possibilities rather than the practicalities, and how will I work out, how long's a minute, and what will I do with this, and
Right, right,
then
right.
then you just get started, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You just get started, and as you can see, I can carry on about this, because for anything anybody can come up with, I can definitely already have something that there's a possibility for that. And and yeah, because the thing is, it is just being able to get started, and also um just knowing it's not about perfection or anything like that. And then also too, there are going to be times where you're going to go over, but when you're recording on your phone, again, YouTube will give you the opportunity to edit that to into a short. And
Right.
so you can even in a place where you're like, oh man, I wish that I wouldn't, it could have cut off at this point and it didn't. But what you can do is still put that video up, even as a regular video, but then you can make a short out
Well,
of
that's
it.
the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that sounds great.
yeah, you can make the short out of it, where you can find a place where it's good to cut off. But I'm going to be honest, and with me saying this, I don't want anyone to think that I don't want you to strive for excellence, so to speak, because I do, but excellence and perfection are two different things. So people are very familiar with shorts at this point. It's one of the biggest highlights on YouTube, so to speak. And so they're also used to shorts that kind of cut off or drop off even as a person's talking. I recommend, if you can tighten it up, do. But if there's something that just to get started, I would still allow that to be. And there's always the option to put in the shorts a text that says, see longer video in the comments. So the reason why I'm just saying this is because, as you can see, I'll take away just any and everything that anybody can come up with of why, not to get started doing, I don't feel right about this, or I don't know, or, well, the thing about it, just as Gina mentioned, it's getting out of comfort and familiar zones and just getting started with it, and just knowing that there are options, and we don't always have to be so I don't want to say time conscious in a sense, even when it comes to the shorts, because if you are talking about something that's going to continue on, then just make a short from that on a point that was really, relevant or whatever. And again, you can direct them to see the longer video. So that's how you get people moving who aren't used to doing this, and kind of just break down everything that their minds can start to think about that they don't have to think about. Say, just do it.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I will start tomorrow.
Yay! Well, that's how you get YouTube done now, right?
It certainly is, yes.
Yeah, we're planning it now. So that's yeah, so that's a good way, like I said, to start moving the energy more on things that are already existing. So let me, before we conclude here, on the note of pre-existing things, let's be present for a moment and see if there's something that comes up, and it may not even be from the training hubs. I mean, it could be, but is there something that exists now that is ready, that everything's ready in a sense, but more so wants to move to the forefront? So let's just be present in the space and see if there's any offering or opportunity. Yeah, she's being present. I'm going to invite everyone to take a deep breath, please. And you can also be thinking about this for yourself. Do you have something that's already pre-existing that you could start to move the energy on that? Sometimes people need to revisit something that they've already done, maybe rework it, realign it, and reposition it, and maybe relaunch it. So for some of you, it's time to do the re energy. And it could be to redo something too, or add to that, revamp, reface. Is there a project that you already have? It could be a book, it could be a program, and maybe you need to do a reface on it. I've done this several times, and normally the second version of something is always normally the more profitable one, even with businesses. Is, can you take something that exists and make another version of it with a different name, and then launch it, relaunch? But in that case, it would be a first launch. So for that particular thing. But so that's the expansiveness, and then positioning that on YouTube in some way, doing some type of short talk with it, or just a, a presentation with it, or however, just however you're guided. I'm just sharing quite a bit so that it just gets people's minds, to thinking. Gina's used to the explosion and
So, yeah.
brain expansion of different things. All right, so when something comes up for you, or if something comes up,
So excuse me. What's coming up most strongly is the using the leadership stuff that I have, and perhaps looking at using that in a different way. But yeah, I think what's calling me really is using because I've got more than one series of leadership, and I think that sort of reworking how it's presented in I like the idea of, it doesn't matter what context you're talking about. It doesn't matter what level of experience you're talking about. That there is an opportunity for you to develop and grow, and it's here.
So let's be a little bit more present with this, because I'm feeling some acceleration here. So even though it is the leadership focus in terms of the theme, something wants to be isolated because I can feel it, but I don't want to call it out. So being present with, there's a particular aspect of that, and it could be around one particular thing that's saying, nope, now, me now. I feel it strongly. It is definitely here. Because it's still kind of general in a sense, which is good because it is expansive, it's very multidimensional. But some type of offering or opportunity is wanting to be more illuminate. And then yes, it may lead you to repositioning the whole leadership agenda and all those different aspects that we talked about earlier, to showcase that in a different way. But something wants to be the leader right now. Ooh, every pun intended.
The thing that's just at the forefront of my mind is the spiritual aspect of leadership.
Okay. So with the spiritual aspect of leadership, what is already in place, because what's wanting to come forth is something that already exists. And so either there's a
within
product. Go ahead.
Within the publication, Journey from Human Doing to Human Being, there is a big section on being a spiritual leader,
right,
with the context of business. And I wonder whether that needs to, and I think
it's its own thing. So let me be present with you while the energy is moving here. So that section there, wants to be its own thing. So pull that out, and let's make that specific, there we go. That's the illumination. It's and I want to point this out for those who are listening, is because our processes are not linear, is that a lot of times there are elements within something that already exists, and we have to be present with that and bring that out. So instead of making this book per se the leader in a sense, and it's still going to be incorporated, but pulling that particular aspect out of the publication, and you all can do this with things that you have too. You can take one element of something and allow it to become more illuminate. So I'm going to give an example of this. So in my first publication, it feel like eons ago when it was published, and it was back in 2012, but I had a section, and it wasn't even like a chapter. It was a just like a little section in the publication that was called The City of Imagining. The City of Imagining later on became its own book and a platform. And again, it wasn't a chapter in the book, so to speak. It was a section that talked about that particular aspect and that particular element, but it wanted to be its own entity, so to speak. And so, yeah, it went on to become something much bigger. So that's what's happening here, is that this particular aspect is wanting to be something on its own. So
I think it's a playlist. I think it's a playlist of videos taking each aspect that is within that section, and using that to become a series, which then can become a product, has lots of different elements to it. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so even that section there could be like I said, a book on its own, a journal
Yeah.
on its own, where you could take that, and then that's something that from there you could continuously create some series around it, or even offer some type of workshop or
I was
VIP
going to say
day
that that would
experience.
lead to an acceleration workshop.
Absolutely. Yes. Accelerate your spiritual leader, however, something of that nature. And so that is wanting to be illuminated. And then, yes, for YouTube, of course, yeah, you said that could be a series that's put in a playlist. Definitely something that for YouTube shorts or even short form videos or so that could be leveraged, even short forms of a 3 to 5 part.
I think it's a short. I think it's a playlist of short form videos.
Absolutely. And let that lead into um, something that you are wanting to offer to the spiritual leader community, especially emerging ones. And so you can be present with whether this is for, emerging on both ends, those who are emerging, and also those who are on the emerging edge. And again, going back to getting YouTube done now, and being content creators on a whole nother level, this is how you actually never run out of content, in a sense too, because there's always something to talk about, and you don't always have to say everything in every video, because you can break that up
Yeah.
and do the short form. And this is very easy for even the YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
And how much are you leveraging your spiritual leadership abilities? Or there's so many different ways that you could, go with that. And it's very appealing to people. So that's the element. We're already working with something that exists. And so, because the publication doesn't exist as of yet, but that publication could exist this next week,
Yeah.
because it's already done. All it is just taking that chapter out, adding some type of introduction to it, and putting some journal pages or whatever the activity pages, interaction pages are to that particular initiative. And then yeah, and then it's just a matter of getting that off to KDP, but already creating what the experience is going to be. But you also could take your the book that is coming out of, and then you have another publication, The Essence of You,
Yeah.
something like that, right? So those are two aspects that you can go ahead and start showcasing them, to have something that you can do just around those particular ones.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and see, that's how this is dimensional. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say there's also some videos that are part of my accredited enlightened leadership program.
Absolutely.
Videos and activities that could be included in this.
Absolutely. And also a segue into that program.
Yeah.
And so that may be also one of the aspects and elements that is like, hey, I am ready too. And see, that's when we start with one thing, it becomes like a domino effect. And it
Yeah.
begins to show us all the other different aspects that we already have, that are ripe and ready. And for those of you who have been sort of discouraged with products that you've created, or different things that you've created, and it doesn't seem like anything has been done with those yet, this is the time where a lot of those aspects are going to start coming back into focus, and the marketplace is going to be more ripe and ready for those different types of offerings. And this is where you want to leverage YouTube to your highest advantage, because the way that you were positioning them and showcasing them before is not the way that they really want to show up. And sometimes they want to be companionized with other aspects and elements, or they are companions to other things. And so we're seeing this layout clearly, where here we are taking a publication and then taking something out of the publication and saying, no, this needs to be its own thing, because that what's coming out is actually going to be the bigger, grander context. So now that we have that, here we go from acorn to oak tree. So we've pulled out what the oak tree is, right?
Definitely.
But the oak tree is in growth form at this point in acceleration. So now we're going to take what it came out of and start now leveraging that, and then we're going back to bringing something that we created a few years ago and somehow allowing these to kind of weave into each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so now, again, what does that produce? More content to talk about on YouTube, more something to focus on, and then just lead in, even in the shortest, the simplest formats, introduce something, provide some value, and then direct them to the description where then they'll learn about the program. And then if you have older podcasts, which we know you do in terms of your that particular program, you can then put those podcast links in the description too for them if they want to learn more about your journey, if they want to hear more about this and learn more about the program. And that way you've done all the talking. And so I want to encourage other people. You've already done all the work, all right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to bring some core elements together, see what the evolution is, the oak tree-ness of what you, what's been sort of suspended, so to speak, that hasn't been being used. You're going to see how it's leveraged now. And this is where you're going to start using YouTube to bring some attention to that. And if you have older content on YouTube in reference to that, then that doesn't have to get neglected either.
No.
You
No,
can
there's just all sorts. I was
you
finding
can put that in the description, use it.
I've got a half-an-hour video about the Enlightened Leadership Program as a webinar. That there's just all sorts of stuff that just sitting there that I can utilize.
Absolutely. And so that's the way for people to then really educate themselves and become more knowledgeable about you and about that particular offering. And now all you have to do is come in the newer energy and the newer vibration around that. And wait a minute, in all other aspects and elements that could be companions to that particular offering.
Yeah.
And now you come with the fresh new energy around that, and then you can segment them into that. This is how you get YouTube done. This is how you get YouTube done. Because there's tons to talk about and tons to share about, tons to showcase, and just so much that you can add tremendous value to people, even if you're giving quotes from your publications, even if you're giving tips from a program that you have, you don't run out of things to provide value with, as it relates to this. So, all right. So I think that we are, good for this particular session here. So Gina, was there anything else that you wanted clarification on?
No, I'm set to go. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got plenty of things, and as I always know, that when we've had this sort of session, that all of the little thoughts start to percolate, and by tomorrow there'll be another load of ideas of things that have been sitting there, and are unused treasures that I can bring on.
Unused treasures, that's right. And it's time for those treasures to no longer be hidden from the marketplace, and not in their usability formats, because they're ready for that now. They were created in one season, but now, because you evolved, then how you present this will be different. And also too, it's not your main thing anymore.
No.
And
it's part of the rich tapestry.
Absolutely.
And what's, if you think about the threads in a tapestry, the weft and the warp, ultimately these weave together, making different patterns, and you can use each of the elements, I would say, if you're listening to this, I think in the past, I know I like so many people, I would do something and then I'd do something else and then I'd do something else. Whereas what I have recognized through working with AliNICOLE is that these all interlink, and you can make, if you've got 8 different colors of wool, for example, the number of patterns that you can make by using different stitches and using them in different ways is absolutely infinite. And this is no different.
Absolutely. That was magnificently stated. But you always articulate so well that was, oh wow, that was great. That was incredible. So what was a highlight or a main takeaway for you from this, particular session? And I want to give you an opportunity to also to give a shout out for your channel, and then also anything that you want to encourage and empower others who are on this journey with as well.
So I've had a very loving kick up the bottom to get on with YouTube. That's a really good thing.
Is that what happened?
Yes, we've been talking about them for a couple of weeks, and I've not been idle, but I have been
Yes.
avoiding them. So that I've got a framework for how to look differently and at my spiritual business leader whole thing, and bringing in the Enlightened Leadership Program and using that newer energy, really projecting that newer energy. And I think for me, it's really weird. These things never cease to amaze me. Earlier today, I was looking at my spreadsheet, and one of the things I would say to you, if you're listening to this, do create for yourself a spreadsheet with all of the different things, your articles, your YouTube, your everything, with all of the links on, so you don't lose it, and so that it's much easier to access. But I was going through that today and going through some old folders, and there's such a lot of stuff there that hasn't seen the light of day for a long time, that has really good stuff. And I think packaged differently,
Right.
with the new energy and introduction, it's a real value to people, and I need to give it headspace, really. Well, give it physical space rather than it just being buried on my computer or in my head.
Oh, that was magnificently stated. Once again.
Yeah.
That was tremendous.
And I just would say to everybody, you may, I've got an enormous amount of content, and mine is a minuscule in comparison to AliNICOLE's, let me say, although, my spreadsheet is huge. But even if you've got something that is much more limited, it doesn't mean that you've got to use it in a limited way.
Right.
This is a very different way of looking at things. It's not compartmentalizing them in the way that traditionally that's how we've been taught to do it. It is about seeing the connections. And the more you see the connections, the more connections there are there for you to see. It's a way of being, it's a way of thinking. And one of the things that I earlier on used to find quite useful was to have just a big piece of paper on the table with post-it notes with different colors for articles and for publications and for videos and so on, and then start to manipulate them into how they could work together. And I think you might find that useful if this is a way of working that you're completely unfamiliar with. Now, I do show my age by saying use a paper and but one of the reasons for doing that is that there's a physicality to it, which I don't get on the computer. And that physicality and actually being able to move things about and not have to keep rewriting things or retyping things, and then taking photographs of it, so you capture that and then go on to the next one. And you'll find that there are so many ways that you can connect things that perhaps you hadn't thought of before. And I would say to anybody, if you want some help, then reach out to us, and
Yes.
we can help accelerate your journey.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you put that out there because the help is available on multiple levels. And as Gina has mentioned, not just me, we are, and Gina can help you on so many different levels, even with YouTube. Um,
Yep.
because keep in mind, everyone's leveling up. And even those who have good footing in certain areas or different levels of mastery, they're still leveling up and increasing what they're doing and advancing what they're doing. It's just part of our journey that we all need to continue on. So definitely reach out, even to Gina, if you would like some assistance in multiple levels. There's going to be information about her and her different platforms and works uh, within the description. So Gina, before we close out, let everyone know about your YouTube channel.
It's called Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner. Gina, Gina, Gardiner, Gardiner. So Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner. I'd love not only for you to subscribe, but for you to contact me through that channel to say that you've listened to this and what you thought of this program and what you're up to. Love to know.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much. Gina, thanks always. I'm glad that we got to come forth and do this particular on-air workspace so that others can benefit from it as well. And of course, we will continue our workspaces outside of the on-air experience. I'm so proud of you
Oh,
and
thank you.
the massive momentum that has been ensuing in terms of the first time you came on and the plan you put together and everything that you've done since then, and now moving into this next dimension of of what is progressing. So it's just amazing and looking forward. Of course, you'll be back to share more and hold other people accountable and empower other people, on their journey as well. So I just want to thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And so, to those who have been tuning into this, we're always encouraging you to get YouTube done now. You have so much to offer. And I would encourage you to listen to this particular segment several times. And as I mentioned, there will be links to Gina's previous segments, but also to playlists where you can hear other segments as well, workspace sessions. But whatever it is that you need to be doing now to get YouTube done, make it a point to do that, because when you get YouTube done, you're getting you done. This changes your life on so many different levels, helps you to discipline and better manage your time just in general, to not just work smarter than not working harder, but also to live in a more smarter way where you can actually be leveraging YouTube to help you manage your life and your affairs even differently. So with that being said, we're going to conclude this workspace session. And again, there's information below, articles that you can avail yourself to. And again, information about Gina and also myself. So signing off for now, and we'll be back with you soon. Take care and stay blessed.